Podcast. I'm your host Joel, and my co-host Ben.
Yep.
It is Harbaugh, it is Brady, it is misinformation, it is Flores, and maybe some mock drafts today. So actually, surprisingly, on a dull Pro Bowl week, we're coming up with some good stuff for you. Let's talk about Jim Harbaugh, because just breaking from a pretty well-respected by both of us and a former guest on this show, Chris Ballas from the Wolverine.com, on3.com. He just reported about 45 minutes ago that Jim Harbaugh is more than likely taking the Minnesota Vikings job. Now, again, we're going to talk about this more, but misinformation and being the first person to strike is always something that people pride themselves on in the national media. So, but again, we talk about it. We respect Ballas. There's a reason he's been on this show. What are your thoughts? And first on Harbaugh taking a Vikings position, and who should replace Harbaugh if he does take said position?
I mean, look, it's pretty obvious. Like he's had pretty heavy NFL interest this year.
Mm-hmm.
From himself, I would even say. And obviously, when he's made that a little bit more known, obviously the NFL is going to come asking. There's a lot of openings this year at a lot of places that make sense. So it was kind of obvious from the beginning if he got an offer that at a place that he was intrigued about, I think he would certainly listen and probably had a good chance of taking it. That doesn't mean, like, I see a lot of people out here who's like, oh, he hates Michigan, or that doesn't mean he hates Michigan. That just both can be true. He can want to go back to the NFL yet also love Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing changes on that. I think a lot of people looked at it like the John Beilein thing the same way. Like, when Beilein left, it was like, oh my gosh, but he loves Michigan. Look, no one is just tied down. Like, these guys are competitors, just like the players.
Just like us, we always, if there's opportunities for more money and a better opportunity in general,
right? Like, why wouldn't you at least listen to it?
Yeah.
Right? Like I was talking to some people yesterday, and I'm like, look, just because he's a football coach doesn't mean it's any different. Like, if somebody on LinkedIn messages you and says, hey, I want to talk to you about an opportunity, your resume looks good. Like, I usually at least field the questions, or at least and listen to them. Doesn't mean I'm even at all interested in the job, or it doesn't mean maybe I am interested in the job, but doesn't mean I'm going to take it,
mm-hmm.
or it doesn't mean I'm going to go through an entire interview process. But I'm going to at least listen, right? And that's in his right. And I think this whole thing kind of got blown up, and obviously it's going to in the media. It's Jim Harbaugh, it's Michigan, it's the NFL, it's all these different things, right? But at the same time, I think it's well within his right to do what he's doing. It kind of sucks. The NFL is not going to go on the college recruiting, schedule calendar. The NFL is still going. The college has been done for weeks, right? So if you have a coach like Jim Harbaugh who's constantly going to have NFL interest, either himself having NFL interest or the NFL having interest in him, you're just gonna have to deal with this type of stuff. And unfortunately, like, that's just kind of where Michigan's at. So yeah, getting to the second part of your question, like, where do you go from here? It's tough. You either you are almost forced to go internal, at least for 1 year, and see, kind of like when Gary Moeller was unceremoniously let go from Michigan, and Lloyd Carr was the interim, right? And then they had, players wanted him, and after that first year, and then obviously, rest is history. He was there for over a decade, but you almost got to go internal because you're out of options on the college route, unless you want to jump to the NFL for a head coach again, which is I guess it's possible. And I guess, again, I don't want to speculate a ton until we know for sure he's gone, but it's leaning that way and trending that way. So if you go internal, is it Josh Gaddis? Is it Mike Hart? Is it Jay Harbaugh?
I was going to say those are the three that came to my mind too. Yeah.
Right. But none of them have been a head coach before. And that's really, really scary. Now, Mike Hart makes sense. Michigan guy. He's, by all accounts, been being groomed for a position like this. I don't think you're going to have a problem getting some people fired up about the program with him. He's a Michigan guy. Always has been, always will be. But does he have head coaching experience? No. Like, that's the problem with having a guy go to the NFL, right? That's the problem. When a guy retires, like Lloyd Carr did, you at least had time to vet out the college options. Yeah, they ended up with Rich Rod, that didn't work out, but at least you could go the college head coach route. Now it's you're stuck a little bit. You can't. I mean, you probably could. There's probably some guys out there you could at least reach out to and see if they'd have interest. But by all accounts, from what I'm reading, they really love this assistant coaching staff, and they would love to keep this assistant staff together. And the way to do that is to go internal or go with a Michigan guy. So
you'd be surprised. The top comment is on a lot of
probably Matt Rule.
Matt Rule's come up. Also seeing a lot of Luke Fickell, surprisingly.
Luke Fickell is not going to take this job.
I was going to say, that would be like a Greg Madison type of traitorship.
He's not going to do it. I wouldn't be surprised if Michigan calls to see if he will, right? But I would think he's going to shut that thing down real quick.
Well, make him say no then, I guess. I don't know.
And that's fine. If Michigan makes him say no, that's fine. That's fine. And I'm cool if Michigan wants to reach out to him, because I do think he's a good head coach. But he's not going to take this job. So
yeah.
At
least not now. I don't think he's in a position, at least now, to take it.
No, to take it. It's just too late. And I think really Fickell, to me, is probably dead set on being the next head coach at Ohio State if Ryan Day ever leaves. And he can't do that. If he takes a Michigan job, he's not going to ever be able to do that.
Yeah.
They operate differently, like, in my opinion. Those guys are crazy in Columbus, to where, like, they just won't let that happen, even if it just makes sense professionally for Luke Fickell. He's just not going to do that.
So, I don't know. They took Greg Madison just like nothing, but
yeah, well, he's the defensive coordinator. It's completely different.
It's true, yeah.
Completely different. He's not going to take the head coach. So in my opinion, I think they go internal. They lean into internal. I don't like Rule all that much. I mean, he was a hot commodity.
I don't hate Rule, but again, like this, you could, no matter who they get, it could even, I mean, you feel like it'd be more likely if it was internal, but this could be just like a bridge type of thing too.
Sure.
Where it's
which is why I'm fine with an internal hire. I'll be honest. Like, hey, name them the interim head coach. Mm-hmm. Now it sucks for recruiting, from a recruiting standpoint, having an interim head coach. That's where you'd say, how are you going to get a kid to commit to a school when,
you can't commit to a coach
with an interim tag? You can't commit to a coach. Fair enough. A lot of kids don't commit to a coach. They commit to the school, right? Mm-hmm. But a lot of kids do commit to the coach, or they at least want to know there's going to be some stability there, right? Mm-hmm. So that's the tough part about the interim tag. So I don't know if you can really do that. And I don't know if you want to be completely starting over next year. So I think you got to kind of put your.
Do you feel like you might as well just suck it up and do it though? Mike McDonald's obviously a pull for a lot of defensive recruits. Like, and we lost that year one. Yeah, but we lost that year one. It's just like, do you just try to pull the plug in general? And I don't know.
And go somewhere else and go outside the program now. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Do you do that? I don't know. But where do you go? It's so late in the process. Where do you go? There's probably plenty of coaches who. If this had happened,
Mel Tucker did it. Why would other coaches? I mean,
sure. I'm sure other coaches would. You know what I mean? I'm sure
because Michigan is still high profile. I mean, they just were in the Final Four.
Yeah,
so,
you could get somebody to come there. I promise you could, and they would probably pay the person. And if you're Michigan, you wouldn't have to pay him as much as you probably were going to have to pay Jim Harbaugh. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. It's really. I don't know who you hire. That's the problem. That's the whole time where I was going. They can't lose Jim Harbaugh because I don't know who you go to now.
Bring back Brady Hoke, baby.
No. That's not going to fly. No. So, I just think internal makes the most sense from just a continuity standpoint, for just purely for next year's team. It makes the most sense, right? I do think they're going to have a very good team again next year. But, yeah, where do you go, right? Where do you really go? Where do you, if a priority is keeping the staff together, you got to go internal. If priority is not, and you can't force a new guy from the outside coming in to keep that staff together, even though that staff was excellent, right? Mm-hmm. You already lost a defensive coordinator. So I don't know. It's crazy. Part of me's definitely wishing or hoping that maybe it's just kind of, it just doesn't work out with him in the Vikings, because it sounds like Miami. It might. I mean, I don't know. Miami's getting sued now, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But it sounds like maybe they've moved on to other people too. So yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate. Michigan's kind of in a tough spot if he ends up leaving, and all signs are pointing that way. So I don't know. From the beginning, I've said I thought he'd be back. This is probably the first day where I was like, yeah, he's probably not. Just because enough people who don't just tweet and throw out garbage are saying that he's not. So, but you never know.